Welcome to the series Reconciling Science and the Bible. It's time for us to talk about truth. What is truth? And can you trust the Bible as being truthful? This is the first lesson after all of the discussion we've had now of the proofs for the existence of God. And we will turn our attention to discovering whether or not the Bible is true and whether you should accept it. Some words go without being defined, and I believe truth is probably one of those. It's the collection of things that are either real, whether they deal with events or just facts. The other descriptions in its definition concern how to apply the truth in some cases. Does the truth have to be accepted to be true? No, else we might believe the world is flat even today. Sometimes we don't know the truth, so we accept what the preponderance of the people suggest. For instance, all of us believe God's sex is male. Now, we don't know for certain, but we accept that he is male. And truth is the property of something being in alignment with a fact or reality. Let's look at 7 true statements that we could make about truth. If you're defining truth, how sure can you be that your definition is true? Well, here is a process. Make a statement that you claim to be true. Then ask, is this statement about truth true? Then you make a statement about your statement about truth, and then ask, is the statement you made about your statement about truth true? And so on, and so on, and so on it goes. Just how deep does this syllogism go? Well, there are 7 truths about truth that may help. The first of these is, truth is a statement of fact. First, truth is a statement about fact. Any statement may be claimed to be true, but the facts will find it out. If I tell you my grandfather's legal name was Thomas, you could check the records and find that his legal name was actually John. The statement I made about his name being Thomas was untrue. And sometimes we have to dig deep to find the truth in someone's statement. That often takes some swearing on the Bible and a group of 12 average Joes to review all of the information before accepting anything as true. And sometimes we may never even learn the truth. Truth has to be true. Now, many people have claimed to have sighted odd creatures, especially Nessie, the Loch Ness monster, but there have been no proof of their existence to date. So these are generally claimed to be untrue. Hundreds of thousands of UFOs have been reported, but there have been no crash landings found to date, or they have been found and the government may be hiding them in some secret military facility. And here is your typical picture of an alien, an oversized cranium to indicate extensive knowledge, big black eyes which are able to see light in all spectrums, and a small, short, thin body with extra long arms and huge hands with spindly fingers. Usually, they don't wear clothes, and somehow their human-esque form makes these little green men seem more possible, right? Without facts, UFOs must be considered untrue. Following are 7 statements that we will look at about truth. Truth is simply a statement about facts. So talk about historical fact checking. All of these otherwise historical people are now being questioned for whether or not they were real or just the fictional fantasy of some historical writer. Any of these are not true people until facts are known and agreed upon. The second point about truth is this: truth is exclusive. If something is true, it must be exclusively true. A statement is either false or it is true. There is only one choice. If John is indeed my father's first name, it cannot be anything other than John. And if something is true, It must be expressly true. It must be definitively and exactly true. It can't be anything other than absolutely true. There is no such thing as half truth. So, is this a statement of fact? A man named Didymus was one of the 12 disciples. Now, I know the song is running through your mind right now. Jesus called them one by one: Peter, Andrew, James, and John. Next came Philip, Thomas too, Matthew and Bartholomew, James, the one they call the less, Simon also, Thaddeus, and the 12th apostle Judas made. Jesus was by him betrayed. So is the statement, Didymus was an apostle, true? Well, there's only one Didymus mentioned in the Bible, and he was only mentioned one time, and he is one of the 12 apostles of Jesus. In the song, we called his name. Did you know there was a disciple who went by two names? One was his real name, and Didymus was his nickname. His nickname Didymus meant twin in Greek. Now, we use this word all of the time to mean me too, or we used to call a copy of it, of a letter or a document, a ditto. If you ran through the song, you probably ran across the name Thomas. Didymus was Thomas's nickname. I actually have three names, three first names. Earl is on my birth certificate. Butch is a very crude form of endearment, I suppose. And Doctor. Now, that's a courtesy name because I have a PhD, and I heard it all the time when I was teaching. Usually my students would say, Dr. Delaney. I'm also known as Old Fuddy-Duddy, Old Windbags, and Old Know-It-All. But through all of that, my exclusive and my legal first name is Earl. Point number 3, the truth is always discovered. Pinocchio searched hard for the truth and he found it. So what if the truth about something exists and you searched for it, but you can't find it? Surely that makes it false. If you can't find the truth, you cannot claim something to be true. Here's an example. D.B. Cooper in 1971 brought a bomb on board a Northwest flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle. The plane and the passengers landed in Seattle, and there he was given a briefcase with the money that he requested. Then the plane took off for Mexico City, and somewhere near Reno, he jumped out of the plane. He was never found. Later, a stack of bills matching the same amount turned up in a forest nearby. No other evidence was found. Did he get away? Well, no one knows the truth. The truth about his disappearance has never, to this day, been found. Here are some interesting truths you can try out on your friends. It might be good in playing the "I'll bet you didn't know" game. Did you know that the Supreme Court has a basketball court in it? Do you know the basketball court's name? Is it easier or harder to get a job at Walmart or accepted as a student at Harvard? Did you know a dying man's last wish of the Cleveland Browns football team? What is the longest word in the English language that also means the longest word? And finally, have you discovered that Lake Superior State College offers an official license allowing you to hunt a certain mythical creature? The U.S. Supreme Court building does have a basketball court in the building. Now, that seems surprising, but not as surprising as this. What do you think its name is? It's the highest court in the nation, and it does sit on the 5th floor, and the Supreme Court room is on the 4th floor. It is actually harder to get a job at Walmart. They have a 2.6% acceptance rate. 97.4% of all applications are rejected. So it's easier to get a job at Walmart, than it is to be admitted to Harvard University that has a 4.5% acceptance rate. And this one is true. A diehard Cleveland Browns fan recently died, and he asked for 6 Browns players to be his pallbearers. His reasoning was this: so the Browns could let me down one last time. One of the longest words in the English language is hippopotamonstrous esquipedaliophobia. And that word actually means the longest word. Lake Superior State University offers a unicorn hunting license, and they say it's a rather lonely profession. And by the way, open season is 364 days, and it's closed on Valentine's Day. Truth is an either-or situation. You really only have one of two choices. Something is either true or it is false. Something intrinsic cannot be true for one person, but not true for others. Sometimes you'll hear, what is true for you may not be true for me. That is called relativism. But if something is true, it is absolutely true for everyone. Someone in my family once said to me, we were talking about things that are true, and he said, what is true for you may not be true for me. And he said, there is no absolute truth. So I asked, is that statement an absolute statement? In other words, is that statement true for just you, or is it true for everyone else? Now, we may wish something to be true just for ourselves, but that cannot happen. Truth is a concept that is not relativistic. If something is true, it is true then for everyone. Point 5, the truth is also unchanging. Think of something that was once thought to be true, but was discovered later not to be true. For instance, the world is flat, there are people on the moon, that Arkansas football will do well in the SEC. We don't always know whether something is true. It is assumed true until it is proven false. But all this time, it was and still is false. I assure you people, Elvis is dead, truly dead, forever dead. Give it up. The truth is, if something is true, it does not depend upon you believing it. Like Tinkerbell, your belief about it does not affect, affirm, or deny its intrinsic value of truth. Tinkerbell has wings and she can fly. Believe it. Now, no matter if she does sprinkle pixie dust on you, you could not flap your arms hard enough to fly. If you believe something to be true, that does not make it true, nor does believing something is true that turns out to be false later. Truth has nothing to do with your belief. And truth does not depend upon the attitude of the one professing it. An arrogant and known liar telling the truth does not make his statement false. Even humble people can lie. And even though they may swear on the Bible, their testimony, they may still make false statements. So there are 7 statements that I'd like to go through that are true about truth. Another facet of discussion about truth is this: truth has to be discovered, and you are about to learn 2 truths on this side. First are the lines between the rows in the first image, the ones with black and white squares. Are they perpendicular, or in easy speak, are they level with each other? Are they level, or are they wedged shaped? Now look at the second image. Do you see spirals in this second image, or do you see circles? So it's time for you to discover the truth about these 2 questions. The truth is, the horizontal lines in the first image are the same, and they are not wedged shaped. And there are no spirals in the second image, only circles. Not all truths are self-evident. You must search to find the truth, and all truth has to be searched for and validated. The world would literally fall apart if there were no truths and measurements. So much so that there is a bureau in Washington called the Bureau of Weights and Measurements, and it's part of the NIST part of the government. Somewhere there is an ounce measure that is the standard for all other ounces. So too with pounds. This agency ensures there is one place to go to find and maintain a standard measure for all weights and measurements. If there was no absolute truth, our world would look very different and very strange. Buildings would lean worse than the Italian Leaning Tower of Pisa. My daughter Jessica went there and saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and she went to the top. And believe it or not, there is a Pizza Hut on the top floor, or so she told me. If there were no absolute truths, none of our measurement tools would have had the exact same distance or weight measurements. Here is the first argument to prove that absolute truth must exist. There are only two choices for an answer, either yes or no. So if someone is saying there is no absolute truth, just ask him if that is an absolute statement. Is what you are saying true for every single person? That there is no absolute truth? You see, it is a self-defeating argument. It is self-refuting. The only acceptable answer to this question is yes, absolute truth must exist. The question, though, is, are humans capable of being absolutely truthful? So here are some hard questions to answer truthfully, and I'll give you time to read a few of them. Our entire existence on earth depends on the presence of absolute truth. Now, this impossible image may keep you up all night worrying about it. There are many who try to denigrate the truth in the Bible, and shown here are some of their statements. But the truth about the Bible is that it is true. It is inspired, and it is God's Word. It is the world's forever bestseller with 2 billion copies in print. It's the best preserved book of all antiquity, with 24,000 ancient New Testament manuscripts found of it. We have word-for-word copies of the New Testament going back to about 100 AD, just a few years after the Apostle John's death. And even if we lost all copies of the Bible today, there are still others who wrote and quoted all of it in their letters and books, and we could reconstruct it completely. If you like its message, or if you don't, it is God's Word, just as He intended. Now, you might find reasons not to bother with the Bible and its message of salvation, though. People around you try to convince you that it's not real, that it's not necessary. The preacher you supported gets sent to jail. You don't have a family history of going to church or reading the Bible. And your friends will tell you church and Bible are not important. So what you should do, you should read it to see for yourself. You will get comfort when you're hurting. You'll get peace when you're worried, hope when you feel helpless and lost. You will get strength when you feel weak, a lamp to guide you back. How many of the following are true? The answer is none of these are true. You might have thought they were, but actually they're not. You see, the Bible is not a book itself, it is a collection of books with 40 authors. It was written over a period of 1,500 years, and it is in order by type, by poetry, history, and so forth. It was not written just in Israel, it was written in 3 continents. It is a huge bestseller even today, with 2 billion copies sold. It's not written by saints, but by kings, servants, shepherds, priests, fishermen, old men, and young men. Quickly, how many books are there in the Bible? Well, if you want a handy way to remember how many books there are in the Old and the New Testament, do this. Take the number of letters in Old and the number of letters in Testament. Put them together and you get 39. And that tells you how many books there are in the Old Testament, 39. Then take the numbers 3 and 9 and multiply them together and you get the number of books in the New Testament, 27. And together, that means there's 66 books total in the Bible. The question that you may be thinking is this: how do we know the copy of the Bible that we read today is accurate? Could errors have made their way into it? Well, we have 3 primary sources for the Old Testament. The first is the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found by a Bedouin boy in the late 1940s. It was written by Hebrew scribes at the time of Jesus, and it was hidden away in a cave for years, sealed inside clay jugs. Today, they are sealed within climate and humidity-controlled clean rooms for safekeeping. We have also what is known as the Masoretic text, which was written about 800 AD. And it was written in both Hebrew and Aramaic. It covers the entire Old Testament. By the way, the King James Version was written principally from this version of the Bible. And finally, we have what is known as the Septuagint, and it dates from the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC. Written in Greek, it is a complete writing of the Old Testament, and it was what was used by the early Christian churches. Because it was written in Greek, it is also a lexicon for Hebrew. The interesting thing about all of these 3 sources alone is this: you can reconstruct the Old Testament almost entirely using these 3 sources. There's more than 95% agreement between them all. If you're thinking of buying a Bible, you have many choices, but you should know that there are 4 camps in the Bible writing group. You can take a word-for-word translation, and you can see how those translations in the dark blue. Or you can take a meaning-for-meaning Bible. That would be rewriting what was said and how to express what was said the same way and have the same meaning as today. Or you could take a thought-for-thought version. The NIV is this type of Bible. And finally, you might take a paraphrase version. Don't look at the specific words, but just retell it in your own language. You often hear of the canon of the Bible. Now, when I first heard the word canon, I assumed it was when you use the Bible like a cannon and you blow others away who disagree with you. But this word canon only has 2 ends and not 3. The canon of the Bible is a list of the sacred books which have been accepted as being genuine or true to what was written earlier. It is what is accepted for the books that make up the Bible. So the question becomes then, which books belong and which books do not belong in the Bible. The books of the Old Testament were selected by many different criteria. Is the book a traditional book? Does the book have discernible spiritual authority to be included? Was the book used by the Jewish rabbis in the temple? Does the book include a reference to the future Jesus, or is it about the existing Jesus? So, how was the canon of the New Testament then developed? Well, all of the books were written over a 50-year period, written by an apostle or a companion of an apostle. The books were originally circulated among the early churches, and the 27 books of the New Testament were determined to be the canon of the New Testament in about 100 AD. Now, it should be noted that we have none of the original letters that were written by the hand of the original writers. Instead, we have copies. But we have so many copies, in fact, more than 5,000, that we can put them all together and compare them to make sure that the contents and the books are as God intended for us to have. So here's what you could tell someone who asks you why you should trust the Bible. First, you can read all the scriptures that prophesied about the coming Messiah in the Old Testament, and then compare the New Testament books and see the revelation of those earlier prophecies in the life of Christ. Altogether, there are more than 300 prophecies about the coming Messiah. Now, it would be an amazing feat if Jesus had fulfilled only maybe a third of them, or even a half. But it's truly amazing that all of these Old Testament prophecies were ultimately fulfilled in the life of Christ. Second, it is also amazing to think that no archaeological evidence today has overturned any biblical reference of a town or community. The truth is, the books in the Bible written ages ago have stood the test of time, and they've been proven over and over again by archaeologists today. No archaeological finding has cast any doubt on the reference to them in the Bible. New archaeological discoveries every day are continuing to prove that the Bible is true. The Bible is sound, and it stands the test of time according to archaeological studies. It has had parts of its geology and history questioned, but the answers have always turned up to support its claims. It has proven itself right over and over again. The Bible has been completely vindicated. In addition, there have been many Old Testament people who have been authenticated outside of biblical writings. Google the word Jesus and you will find this. There was a historical figure that has been identified in extra-biblical sources named Jesus. He has been affirmed by the Jewish Talmud and by Gaius Suetonius, who was a chief scribe to King Hadrian of Rome in about 117 AD. And the locations in the Old Testament stories have also stood the test of time. Nebuchadnezzar did besiege Jerusalem in 600 BC, and he took the Jews back home with him to Babylon. This has been found in the Babylonian Chronicles. The author Josephus validates the lives of many people identified in the New Testament. There have been thousands of partial and complete manuscripts written by hand of the New Testament, and there are thousands of Old Testament copies written before the time of Jesus. And many early Christian martyrs quoted Jesus, including Polycarp and Justin Martyr and Eusebius and Tertullian. We could construct every verse in the New Testament just from these historical authors' writings. But I think the final proof of the truth and the validity of the Bible comes from the fact that so many of Jesus' direct followers were willing to die for their beliefs. Here are 15 examples of many who were tortured and killed because they were unwilling to recant their writings. No one surely would go to their own deaths to uphold a lie they were telling. So you can definitely trust the Word. You can rest assured it is true that Jesus did come, He did live, and He did die on a cross, and that the words He spoke are written in these books. Thank you very much.